With all the testing that's been going on getting ready for Season 3, and our recent understanding of how the aura bug works, if you haven't seen my video, I'll link it there, it made me step back and realize that I haven't really sat down with the Auradin, tested what it was capable of, and tried to figure out my own version of the build that I would actually like to pilot. So what I have for you in this video is the Fist of the Heavens Holy Fire Chargedin. Man, that's a mouthful. I'm going to very quickly go over the gear, the skills, our stats in the Mercenary, and then I'll break down how we got to this point, what its entire purpose is, and in general why I was inspired to try to accomplish this. So first, we're going to be using a Hand of Justice and a Caduceus. This is a good base, it has high damage, and it allows us to roll 3 staff mods, or paladin only skills. Since this was done in a hero editor, it looks like this item just gives you +3 skill level to Fist of the Heavens. That isn't what it would look like normally in game, it would say paladin only. But on this one, we have +3 to conviction, +3 to redemption, and +3 to Fist of Heavens. Paired with this, we're using dual dragon in a 45 all-res sacred targe and in a mage plate. This together gets us access to a level 44 holy fire aura just for having it equipped without having to use any other auras ourselves. Shaco with a Nist, basic Maras. We're using more travelers for the magic find, BK rings for the life leech. These are absolutely suboptimal, but they're just basic skill rings. Arachnid's mesh for a little bit of FCR along with the plus skill, and then chance cards for more magic find. Since this is primarily a holy fire Auradin that's using Fist of the Heavens as backup and additional AoE, we are using the Fire Sunder charm. I have it on regardless of where we're going because the idea of this build is that you could just AFK and go anywhere. Keys for magic find, we're using combat skillers with life, magic find with all res across our charms, and then Annie and a torch. On swap, we have CTA for pre-buffing, and I literally have a lidless because it would have taken me too long to make a spirit shield in the hero editor, and I'm lazy. For the skill tree, we have 1 point wonders and prereqs filled up. We're going to max out Holy Bolt as well as Fist of the Heavens. We're going to max out Resist Fire along with Salvation Aura since both of those are synergies for Holy Fire the Aura. Even though we're not using Holy Fire, the items are going to gain the benefit of these synergies as well. We then go down and put enough points into Conviction Aura to try to max it out. We still need 2 levels. Right now, this character is only level 90. At level 92, we'd be able to max this out at the full -150 resistance. If you were somebody who was diehard set on having access to things like Vigor, as well as Redemption Aura without having a Caduceus base that gets you plus to that skill, you can pull some of the points out of both Fist of Heavens and Holy Bolt so that you can get access down into those skills. Because I was asked multiple times while we were testing this on stream, how do you solve your mana problems and how do you handle your survivability, I realized I didn't just want to keep giving the same answer of drink a potion. Now that being said, the answer is drink a potion. But for people who really hate drinking potions, this Mercenary setup goes a super long way to basically shore up all of your survivability issues and make it so that you never have to hit your potion belt ever again. Using an Insight rune word here gets us access to Meditation Aura, which is obviously going to help us manage our mana. Meditation Aura from this item is going to benefit from this synergy that has with Prayer Aura if you buy a Prayer Mercenary. What this means is that the Mercenary's base Prayer Aura is going to go off, giving us 27 life every 2 seconds, and their Insight is also going to gain that same access to healing. So basically, we're actually getting 54 health replenished every 2 seconds, as opposed to the 27. Because we're using this Fire Sunder charm and we're trying to stack as much magic find as possible, our resistances were a little bit weak when it came to our fire res. Because of that, we're actually using Flickering Flame on the Mercenary. Now keep in mind, if you have maximum resistance without this, putting on a Flickering Flame onto your Mercenary will actually reduce your total possible maximum resistance because there's a little bit of a weird bug where the passive aura that you would typically gain from Resist Fire here when you're not using it is overridden by the skill level that your Mercenary has. And then because we're using a Prayer Merc that has a decent weapon but not a lot of survivability on his helmet, we're also using Chains of Honor. The +2 to the level is going to double down on that prayer, which is going to get synergized with the Meditation Aura. And then it's also going to give him the life leech that he needs to actually be able to sustain himself against monsters while he fights. As for our stats, it's just enough strength to be able to use our gear, just enough dexterity that with Holy Shield, we're hitting the 75% chance to block, and the rest of our points are getting dumped into Vitality. With that, we have just under 3,400 life and just over 600 mana. Now, the big thing here that I wanted to point out is that this Paladin build is sitting on 261 magic find. The reason why that's so important is because realistically, the AFK charge around Holy Fire Auradin should be able to clear density. And if you ever take this thing into P1 cows, you'll notice that, hey, every 2 seconds it kills off another whole wave of cows and you move on with your day. The only problem being that killing on low player count doesn't really net you a lot of drops. And because it doesn't net you a lot of drops, that's fewer and fewer opportunities to roll for magic quality and higher items. But that was the exact thing that the community was saying back when this initially came out. Oh, it's not overpowered, you don't have to worry about it, it can't even really clear above players 1, it's just a P1 stomper. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to just show you that right now in cows, because I think it'll do a really good job of kind of hammering in on the idea that we're trying to get to here, just by seeing how the game reacts to a fully synergized level 44 Holy Fire. And you know what, let's go ahead and turn on the audio, because you're also going to want to hear the cows dying. I know that sounds weird and sadistic, but cows dying in the cow level is like the best Diablo 2 ASMR that could possibly exist. So here we go charging around, got some cows around us, and boom, and boom, and boom, and so on and so forth. On players 1 difficulty, cows die every other tick. If they're closer to you and you high roll, they'll die even faster. And this all comes down to the fact that you have the aura bug working in your favor. We're able to run our own max level conviction aura, and since cows only have 50 fire resistance, when you add on the minus 20 resistance from Hand of Justice, all of these cows are at minus 100 fire res. So I can literally just charge around, just hold down left click, and every once in a while hit the shift button just to activate, and the cows will die in droves. Not only that, because of the way that a level 44 Holy Fire Aura works, its total radius is over 32 yards. That means that monsters that are even at the edge of the screen are already taking 1.5 total damage because of the buff that they added to how the Holy Auras worked. Like, look at this pack. There are a few things more satisfying than this. And while killing a lot of monsters very efficiently in this way, this isn't even really OP, right? You know, Lightning Fury Amazon can do this on players 8. There's no problem here, it's just kind of funny. What I think would help a lot is to kind of show the difference if I bump up players count and walk back into those cows. So let's go ahead and bump it up to players 8. If they were dying in 2 ticks, players 8 is only 4.5 times the HP, so I don't know, maybe like 6, 7, 8 ticks and they should die. So once you bump up the player count, even when they're at minimum range, meaning they're taking double damage here, and with a max level conviction, all of them at minus 100 resistance, the speed that you kill them at is really, really reduced, and you definitely notice it. So kind of open and close case, right? It's not that great of a build, it's too expensive because of the runes. There's no reason to play this. Well, before we come to that conclusion, let's take a look at some of the other areas in the game and just how they react to the exact same power level walking in on your paladin. One of the best places to farm in this game on a fire build is either Talrasha's tombs, especially when they're terrorized, or in the Stony Tomb. Now, keep in mind as we run to the Stony Tomb, we're still on players 8 here, and I'll just show you that. Right there, we're still on players 8. Oh, a big old pack of carrion birds. Now that one's fire enchanted, so he's probably not going to die, but all the minions do. Then you just throw on some zeal and you very quickly clean up the rest. The best part about the build as it stands right now is that you can actually just still zeal with it. You don't even really have to AFK if you don't want to. It's just one of the options. But these slingers are actually dying before I'm even able to get over to them fast enough on players 8. And in the Stony Tomb, it's kind of no exception. These Burning Dead are dying within 2 procs when we're within less than half a screen of them. You got horrors over here. And as I'm walking through, you'll notice that they'll die as I go. Now again, we're not teleporting instant one-shotting everything, but this is players 8. The entire idea was that this was just a P1 pub stomper. And now I'm killing players 8 high density in an area level 85 zone with over 260 magic find. So I don't think that we can just say, oh, it's just a P1 stomping build, you just need to be a little bit smart about where you farm. But what about really high value areas? Places like Chaos Sanctuary, Worldstone Keep, etc., etc. Well, let's go take a look at them. So, walking into the River of Flame, we're met with a bunch of monsters that have varying levels of health as well as resistance to both physical and fire damage, but you'll notice that all of a sudden our kill speed is a lot slower. Obviously, these stranglers at the edge of the screen are kind of melting as they go, but we have the problem of these pit lords. These are really high health monsters with high physical and fire damage reduction. Now obviously I can throw in also using Zeal, and that's going to slightly speed it up because we have a really decent amount of fire damage on our Zeal attack, as well as drastically reducing resistances from Conviction Aura as well as our -20 from Hand of Justice. But we're lacking some of the other key points here. We don't have a flickering flame with -15 res here. And this is where the initial problem with the build really walks into. If you go anywhere where you need the Sunder Charm to be able to break the resistance, your Conviction Aura now is only 1/5 effective. Because of that, it's only reducing resistances by 28. So you go from 95 -28, that brings you down to 67. And then you have Hand of Justice lowering it by another 20. So this Pit Lord right here is sitting at 47% resistance. Even though we're at minimum distance, we're getting double our damage, and we're getting 3 times the radial damage on our Holy Fire Aura. They're still reducing our total outgoing damage by almost 50%. And that's when it hit me. While this is a really easy, super accessible, controller-friendly build that can literally just walk around and stomp anything from between players 1 and players 3, if we want to be a good AoE clearing, high magic find, density destroying build, we needed something else. And that's where Fist of the Heavens comes in. With 20 points in the base skill as well as 20 synergies into Holy Bolt, you'll see that Fist of the Heavens is doing around 2000 lightning damage, which doesn't matter. But every Holy Bolt that comes out of it is doing over 4000 damage. Not only that, our base Holy Bolt is also doing close to 6000 damage, so that when we have leftover bosses from elite packs, we can single target down them as well as keep our Mercenary healed. When you're doing something around 4000-ish tick damage on your triple Holy Fire Aura, and then adding in an additional 4000 magic damage per second, the strength of the build really starts to shine through. Let's take Worldstone Keep for example. We're gonna stay on players 8 and I'm gonna walk through, and in addition to our tick damage going off, we're just also gonna throw out Fist of Heavens while we're running. The funny part here is immediately we're met by 2 different monster types that cannot be affected by Fist of Heavens. But keep in mind, what you just watched happen was Worldstone Keep monsters on players 8 dying to just our Holy Fire proc damage. So in a situation like this where the monsters aren't susceptible, we would just also throw in Zeal to help speed up our kill time. Now, let's be honest, there's nothing stellar about what's happening here, right? The kill speed is kind of okay. I think it's doing better than most people would expect on players 8, considering how abysmal it was against cows. But you can see how the Fist of Heavens is really helping to clear out a lot of the density and increase our overall kill speed, while our proc damage helps to clean up around the edges. I'm going to run down to the next section just to see if we have a better undead and demon density down here, just get a clearer picture of how valuable it is. Perfect. Here you go. Here's an entire room full of P8. Clear it out in 3 or 4 casts, come walking up over to these ones, and they're dead. Boom. Bunch of elites dead, moving on. Now, what I would like to do is highlight a few other areas where players 8 actually feels good and smooth, as opposed to even in Worldstone Keep where it's still kind of slow. Out in the Flare jungle, most things, even on players 8, will fall over like wet tissue paper, even if there's something like these birds, which again are not demons or undead. One or 2 casts of Fist of Heavens as you're literally walking by with your aura, and boom, everything is dead. Now this is what it means to clear density and kill with high magic find. The entire purpose is to be able to kill everything on the way. On a high enough player settings, most things are going to be dropping items close to 100% of the time. And the name of the game in Diablo 2 is generate as many item drops as possible per minute for the best chances of finding good things. But what I think makes an even more poignant point is when you go down into some place like the Swampy Pit, where everything down here is a demon or undead, and most people are typically pretty afraid of going in and farming someplace like this. You have souls, you have dolls, other than these bats, which are the only things which don't roll as undead in here, everything is going to pop both from your Holy Fire Aura as well as Fist of Heavens. Just killing P8 dolls, like they're not there, not a problem at all. Easy peasy. Walk through and wow. You know, I could go through and re-record this a million billion times, but we just keep getting pretty bad density, but the point still stands. Here, amp damage, dolls, big undead, a lot of different boss packs here. You just walk through, cast Fist of Heavens while your Holy Fire Aura does the rest for cleanup. Whether it's the Pit in Act 1, Stony Tomb in Act 2, or the Flayer Dungeon and Swampy Pit in Act 3, Players 8 is easily manageable, goes very fast. Even doing things like Countess runs for keys, all of that goes by in a breeze. When we're talking about Chaos Sanctuary and Act 4 in general, I think realistically Players 3 is the play for what you can realistically manage at a good clip and not feel like you're hamstringing yourself. For Worldstone Keep, even though depending on the monster types you're easily able to clear on Players 8, Players 5 is a lot more realistic, considering the amount of non-demon undead monsters that can spawn in levels 2 and 3 can get pretty annoying on higher player count. But right here, we're on Players 5 right now, and we are two-shotting Worldstone Keep monsters as we happen to run by. And boop, dead. That's just so satisfying. Have a Haradrim Ancient that's bugging you? Well, while everything else is dying, you target him down with Holy Bolt. I've had my active hotkey selection right here above the toolbar, just to show you that I'm really only using these skills on this character. We have Conviction Aura up 100% of the time. You really don't have to worry about Vigor when you have Charge. You really don't have to worry about teleporting around because we want to be killing everything as we're traveling everywhere. Charge for mobility, Fists of the Heavens so you can clear out and add AoE damage, Zeal for tanky mobs, and then Holy Bolt for tanky mobs that you don't want to hit with your weapon. Then when you're on swap, you got your Battle Command and your bow and your Holy Shield. So in summary, did we succeed? I think what we set out to do was create an Auradin that was simultaneously what we were expecting it to be, and also different enough so that 1, we can call it a unique build, but 2, it can sincerely capture a farming strategy that the Tesladin of old and the new Holy Fire Zeal Paladin can't really capture, which is density clear. What this build seeks to do, and what I think it's succeeding at, is being able to put on a good amount of Magic Find. Like I said, we have 261 Magic Find on this build without Enigma equipped. That really satisfying aura tick damage being the major contributor to how you're killing stuff, and allow for an incredibly relaxed playstyle. While this build could definitely be optimized for damage output, the only thing that I would say to keep in mind is that the more damage and minus res you put onto the build, the less Magic Find you're able to stack on it. And that balancing act is what is so important for actually maximizing the potential of a density clearing build. All in all, I think this might be one of the most controller-friendly builds I have ever sat down and really workshopped, considering you literally just leave Conviction up all the time and you are either charging, just casting Fist of Heavens regardless of whether or not you have a target, since it will auto-target for you, focusing down and targeting monsters with either Zeal or Holy Bolt. The other cool thing about the build is that it's specifically built so that you don't have to swap out any gear depending on whether or not you need to go into different terror zones, etc. We fix our resistance and survivability and mana issues with our Mercenary, so while they're not doing a ton of damage, they're definitely adding a little bit on targets that are a bit beefier, but they're handling all of the accounting work for you. You're able to leave your Sunder Charm on 100% of the time, so regardless of what area you're farming, the only thing that you really need to know is what player settings you're comfortable doing it at. And again, any areas, Acts 1 through 3, Players 8, you stomp, no question. Acts 4 and 5, you need to start worrying about what monster types are there, but typically Players 3 in Act 4 and in Act 5, Players 5. Build does great in Chaos in general, especially if you're just doing seal popping in Players 1. It does great for bail runs, can go do the Countess for you, farm Arcane Sanctuary, jump into the Stony Tomb, follow that up with the Pit. Go elite snipe a little bit on Pindleskin as well as Bone Ash and the Cathedral. Clear out Catacombs super easy. It can go anywhere, kind of do anything, and it only requires 5 hotkeys on your primary swap. So let me know what you think down in the comments about this kind of AFK sleeper faux Holy Fire Chargedin build. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you found it informative or entertaining, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.